let's get to how you got into the GTO course.
That also is pretty interesting, sir. So that's why I feel that I have every time got some of the most wonderful things which happen to your life kind of through the eye of a needle at times.
Mm-hmm.
The GTO course came as a bit of a surprise. I had never thought about it, and it came as a faded signal
Mm-hmm.
in, again, an operational area. And it so happened that I was the second in command in the unit, and my commanding officer was he had come back from some firing kind of a situation. He'd come back, and he called me and he said that, look, there is this kind of thing which I can make out at some course. Please try to find out, call up the higher headquarters and see what it is and for whom is it meant and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could read was the word GTO.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since I had done a lot of courses with the signals, I felt that this is possibly, the G was missing. So I thought it is possibly technical officers course, some TO.
Acha.
And I said it may be technical. So I actually gave a call to the Dev headquarters and asked them that, have you sent something here? And brigade was out of contact with us for a while. And I kept searching around. And then finally, what happens is when you are into such situations where we were carrying out our practice firing very close to our op area only, but somewhere a bit behind. There were other regiments and other COs. So I actually happened to know a few, and I just took the signal and I went there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe out of experience, the person would say, he says, Are, you just give it to me and you put it under light and all those kind of things. And I saw my faded name written on it. And then we read that the GTO had been printed, but the printer was not okay. So the GTO course. So my name and GTO course.
Mm-hmm.
Thereafter, of course, I got to know. So this is how I got detailed for the GTO course. And later on, of course, you get to know that if you have been rated outstanding in your annual confidential reports, and in particular qualities, the core qualities throughout, and there are no aberrations. That is how you do get detailed for such courses. And the system actually selects you, not somebody sends your name.
Yes. There are certain QRs like that, yeah.
Certain QRs are there, and I went through the army order, and I had very little time to prepare also for my course. So I just went there fresh once again to learn how to select officers. And I knew that this is something which is God sent, and I made the best of it.
Okay, so yes, having been in DIPR at the training division, I can I very much know the kind of hard work that goes behind doing this course, particularly the GTO course. Now we have the IO course, we have the technical officer or psychologist course, and the GTO course. Maximum casualties are in the GTO course. It's the maximum number of officers or trainee officers.
It's a tough course. It is
a tough course.
Very grueling, mentally grueling course.
Absolutely, very tough course. But then, having done such a course, a lot of things open up for you. I personally feel, I've done the IO course. Of course, I have been in the various thing of the GTO and the psych courses also. But yeah, having done a course, an SSS course, it gives you such an insight about the personality, that you feel, this is a wonderful thing, and it, till today, whatever I am doing or the SSS are doing, I think, everyone must be feeling, yes, that's one of the best things to have happened. So what is your take on this?
Very true, sir. Let me give a little insight, of course, but however, for candidates, they must know who is actually going to be assessing them when they meet a GTO, or for that matter, any assessor, with due respect, who comes into the system. So there was this 1 month of theoretical orientation at the Defense Institute of Psychological Research, and you have two very prominent and eminent and experienced GTOs who are there. And otherwise, so the atmosphere at DIPR, you have definitely tend to meet the scientists, the psychologists, the interviewing officers, others who are engaged in teaching people. It's a very beautiful atmosphere. It's a very lovely place. And of course, you must have the liking for academics. So I actually went there with my natural liking for academics and very happy to be in such a place which was very close to where I was myself born. Okay. So it was kind of
Not Delhi.
grown up. Yes, going back to a place where as a toddler I would have actually played around in my cycle in the same place in DIPR and come back again.
Okay.
Of course, DIPR was not there during that time. There was only something called the DIPR labs and INMAS.
INMAS, yeah.
Not to digress from what we were talking about. Well, firstly, the theoretical leg, they really teach you all the details, especially about the group tasking technique. Now, the word actually for psychology, since it is one of the techniques known in psychology, which is the science of the study of human beings or study of human behavior, group tasking technique is actually adapted from the overall technique of observation technique. That is, when you're studying somebody's behavior and observing the person in the context of a group. So that is called the observation technique, and it has been adapted and brought into a group of tasks which are placed in front of the candidate, and that is how the person is assessed. So now the theoretical part was taught at DIPR, and we were basically, there are, which people don't know, that the GTO speaks out his briefing so comfortably, as well as other assessors do also, is because these things are grilled inside us in the DIPR. So there are 11 briefings which you have, that is instilled, that this is something you have to get into your blood. And also the overall basic principles of why and what is taking place and to what end. That is the purpose of studying a person's personality by in the context of a group. And the 15 officer-like qualities. A deeper understanding comes at a later stage, however, and even today, I am still learning and understanding each and every quality in a greater depth than the way I was exposed to it. So we are made to learn the officer-like qualities by heart. Every single word in each and every quality has got a specific meaning, and that is how you learn to select officers. Once you're back after this 1 month, the next part is when you're there for your nearly 8 batches of training. In terms of the GTO technique, you have a phase 1 training, you have a phase 2 training. For each phase, there is a specific instructor. And this actually is physically and mentally, once again, really grueling. That means you do not get to sleep. For the 2 months, you're there at the selection center, learning on one-to-one basis with a GTO who has been placed as your instructor. So now it becomes like a guru-shishya system. And therefore, you are learning on the ground. You are seeing live candidates being assessed, and you learn how to look through the lens of a GTO who has already practiced in the system, who has already worked in the system. So at every stage, you get to learn how to look and from which point of view to look at the candidate. So there are many things which we register normally, but it has to be more tuned towards the officer-like qualities, the holistic personality of the person in terms of your abstract level of thinking, your practical application of your knowledge, and both combined together finally should fit in. Now, finally, also, there is this little part of your own experience of being with other officers which applies. And though a candidate may be meeting all the criteria, there is still that final question that you have to ask yourself, that will you yourself be able to get along with this person? If that question is finally answered, it is then that the candidate gets. And all this teaching which we have to do is all in written form. So the GTO does a lot of written recording. That means by hands.
Absolutely.
And every sign and symbol is supposed to speak out and actually display the candidate's behavior. And you have to assess 10 on the maximum, minimum 6. And now when I look back, one of the most difficult tasks I used to be really afraid of was when you're sitting with 10 candidates in the group discussion and all of them start talking.
Yeah, here, in fact, I just would like to, just second you on this. The things which we learn in theory, थ्योरी में तो हम बहुत कुछ बोलते हैं, ऐसा होना चाहिए, ऐसा देख सकते हैं, ये वो and all. But actually, when you get to see the candidates in that first exposure during the OJT, on-job training, आपका जो होता है, so that is something which is really, really grueling, as well as extensively informative and learning. I remember when I had gone to, for my OJT, I had gone to Mysore, Air Force Selection Board Mysore. And my instructor, he just let me do the interview, and then, he would debrief and all this thing. So the one thing which you pointed out, and I just want to second that, that the question at the end of the interview or assessment, whether interview or GT or whatever, is that litmus test is, would you like to take him under your wings as your subordinate officer? If that is not so, then leave him aside. So, I mean, this is something which, you learn, and, you have that much of experience, particularly when we talk of, say, GTOs, psychologists. The techniques are such where, you have some kind of a seniority which is minimum required. You have that experience of seeing the officers, junior and senior in service. And then, okay, this kind of a person can fit in, can do this. So this is something very, very, I think, important, which at the IPR, we used to say, tell the trainee officers, okay, litmus test is, would you like to have this boy or girl under your wings as your subordinate? So that is something very, I think, very crucial as far as, our decision making is concerned finally. And the kind of, difference when we see from written to the actual thing on ground, when you say, like, I still find it difficult to be able to, listen to 8 to 10 guys in a group, right? We do it in PPDTs, all right. But yeah, having, seeing a group all through so many tasks, this is something which really requires a lot of observation, keen observation. So over to you.
Very true. It was so a GTO, one may find that many of those who are repeaters and all, they would vouch as they would be listening to this program, is that the GTO is sitting and he has those dark glasses and he seems to be writing something. But let me tell you, friends, the GTO is also been recording how many times you've scratched your head, how many times you looked down, looked out, how many times you actually did participate. What did you speak to contribute towards a task? Or what did you do to contribute towards a task? And how was your behavior with others? So, simultaneously, there are so many, it's like, like something like in the 3D world, X, Y, and Z axis. So they're like X, Y, Z, and maybe one more input coming to the GTO simultaneously about each candidate. Then it is who spoke first, who spoke later, what did he speak, who was the last one to speak, and all such kind of things. So to train a GTO for this, it requires a lot of hard work. And I would say a person who gets trained is different, but then there are people who teach you and they have this tremendous amount of patience to teach you the trade of the GTO. And so I was very lucky to have one of the most gentlemanly, perfect examples of officers who were there as my GTOs. And I shall be, like yesterday was Teachers' Day, and I was remembering them, that they really did change my life. And I was actually senior in service to them, and they handled me quite well. And we developed a bond. And so we have a little, which you guys may not be knowing, those who are the people who would be students who are listening to this, our conversation today, is that we have our own little group of people who are trained together, who have been trained by one guru. So I also have my gurus who have trained me as a GTO. I shall be always grateful to them. And today I have also trained some people, and they also remember me. So it's a tradition which carries, which we don't break, because finally you're contributing towards the nation in every possible way. You're giving an officer to the nation, and that man is going to be responsible for the firepower, and also the men, the team, their lives, their families, and the tradition carries on. So it means a lot. It is not a set of questions which you're going to answer there. So therefore, remember, friends, it is not just a exam. It's not an exam. It is the kind of person you are at that point of time when you go to the SSB. That's how you're going to be assessed. Tell me about the town where you're coming from. Many of the candidates, they dither. They're not able to give a forthright answer. If nobody is going to select you as an officer, if you're just going to be quiet and not speak and say, just look at my CV and take me in. So this is not a job.